All right, Carl.
There we
Thank you,
go.
thank you for coming on the show, brother. I love the background already, all the albums, all the covers and stuff.
Thanks for having me. Oh yeah, wait.
Yeah.
We can. There's my
There,
set that
there, there, there we go. There we go.
I'll be
Yeah.
recording the finishing up the new Rods album.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Let's get into the Rods. Rods, legendary band, classic, right? We've
I'm
been
trying to show you something here. I
also
can't.
more. Oh,
Oh, there we go. There's more stuff.
oh, nice. Oh my
And
goodness.
that guitar. Let me see. Where's the guitar? Larry buried it. Larry from Hellstar gave me the guitar. That little
Oh,
red
no.
flying V up there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice,
Hmm.
man. Nice. All right. If if I could be in that room, I'd just be in awe. Yeah. So Carl, talk to me, man. Talk to me about, the rods, how it come about, everything like that, in case people, if they don't know.
Well, you mean when we first formed? That's it. It's an interesting thing. I was just reading about. I'm just finishing my book, and I'm actually reading it to do a final edit before it goes to the publisher for a
Okay.
final edit.
Okay.
And
Okay.
one of the things I ended on was, how the band formed, and it was interesting. I mean, David and I had known David from Elf, rehearsed in the same house, but I don't think David knew me. I didn't really know him. I just knew them because I would see them in passing.
Hmm.
And then I would go see Elf all the time. And then Thunder, David was in the band Thunder, and I went to see Thunder a couple of times. And Colossus, the band I'm in, was in. And actually, Colossus has a new album coming out, brand new, all original album.
Oh, nice.
With
That's an
with
interesting name.
Yeah, it is. It's Greek. It's the guitarist's family name, Colossus.
Oh, nice.
Kelakos. Kelakos. But anyway, and I'm really proud of it. It's a great album. And it's the longest probably Guinness Book of Records between the first album to the second album. I think we did our album in 79, right
Oh, wow.
before the Rod started. That's when we released it. So
Okay.
78 maybe, and the Rod started in 79. So David and I were, I've been working with David and Joey DeMeo for a very brief period of time, and it was sounding awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody kind of went their separate ways, and then David and I decided we would start a band, and
Oh,
that's how that happened. And from there, we just started writing every day, rehearsing every day, and
mm.
we would rehearse from 10 to 12 in the morning at Alfonso's, go back to my place, and we'd screen. We had a silk screen, and we'd do T-shirts,
Oh, nice.
and we would build equipment. Some of those cabinets David still has,
Mm,
that we built. I think I got rid of all of my cabinets finally a few years ago.
mm.
But and then at night we would go back from like 6 to 9, and we'd play. So and then we started playing every gig we could. But that's how we started.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So humble beginnings, right? And now look at where we're at now.
Very, very, very humble beginnings.
Yeah.
In fact, Al would buy us food, and like he wouldn't make us feel like mooches, but Al would say, "Oh, go get me coffee." There was a donut shop across the street. Go get me
Mm,
some coffee, and get yourself some too. So he'd
mm.
buy the band, donuts and coffee. I mean, he
Oh.
was a great guy, and he let us rehearse. We rehearsed above. He had an addition in the back of his store. It had no heat, no cooling, just hot attic. But we rehearsed
Uh,
back there, so it was brutal. In the
oh
winter,
man.
it was a kerosene heater with a bullet. So you can
Oh
imagine
man.
how bad that was.
I,
I think my lungs are just clearing out from that.
oh my
And
goodness.
so that's what we did. But he was just the best. Alf also was fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, man. Yeah. And humble, like I said, humble beginnings, but now look at where we're at now, extensive career, right? You know, um, One of the things that really got me excited about this interview was that you guys had a track with Ronnie James Dio, right? That you met the man
Mm.
himself, right?
Well,
and, yeah.
and he was incredible.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
he came and sang 2 songs. He sang "Metal Will Never Die," which was on David's album "Bitten by the Beast," which is a really great album.
Hmm.
And then he sang a song that I wrote called "The Code," and then so for on the Rod's Vengeance album.
Hmm. Hmm.
And man, David always told me he was a one take guy, and I just thought, yeah, nobody's a one take guy,
Yeah.
but he was a one take guy,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
if he ever did anything, if he did something, he did it differently. He said, let me just do that line again, and they would do it differently.
Mm.
So he was amazing, and such a humble guy. And
Oh.
he had my vocal, and he would play it, and they would say, Carl, do you mind if I change this just a little bit?
Mhm.
I'm like, that's like God asking, change your, can I change your popsicle stick house? Like, okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
you
so.
go right on ahead, right?
Yeah, but
Okay.
what a voice.
Yeah, no,
Incredible.
amazing. Yeah, yeah. And I was because I was jamming out to it, listening to it again. Because I remember hearing it actually a couple years back on, like, I think it was on the radio or something like that. And and then that's when I kind of found you guys, and then I found you guys again with thanks to Ben, for setting this up and everything. But when I heard that you guys, it was you that was sitting down with Ronnie James Dio, it was amazing just to say, like, oh wow, I get to sit down, right, with someone who wrote that song.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So yeah,
incredible.
incredible, incredible. I mean, and so I mean, were you when you guys were in the studio together? I mean, was it how was the chemistry? How was the energy when we were writing those tracks, when we were writing those songs?
Well, the song was already written. It had been demoed. I had already sung this as a demo.
Okay,
So
okay.
he had that to work with. So, but the
Mhm.
end, he was just he's such an intelligent guy and such a hard working guy, and he was incredibly talented. So
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
it was absolutely easy and a joy. It was really a pleasure to watch. It was like I was in awe
yeah.
at watching him work.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That top level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and such a professional, right? That's what I hear about him
To-
too. They're such a professional.
totally professional.
Yeah,
Great
yeah,
guy.
yeah. So I mean, in addition to that, I mean, one thing that what also stood out to me was that we joined Manowar also, right? Later in your
Mm.
career, correct? Right?
It it was
How
right before the rods. That timeline is
Mhm,
David and I started the rods, and Joey started Manowar, and Joey asked me to join Manowar.
mhm,
So I was rehearsing and working with Ross and Eric and Joey, and it was really clear it was going to be unbelievable. I mean, the music
mm,
we were working on, everything we were doing is incredible. I have some rehearsal tapes that I recorded on cassette, and they're incredible.
yeah,
You can just tell the energy of the band, and we all worked well together. So I'm really proud to have been part of the genesis of Manowar,
yeah,
and
yeah.
working on that. And but then it came down to we did the demo with Manowar, and the Rods were finishing the last two songs for the Arista album in the same studio.
Mhm.
And my drums were set up, and the next day I played the Manowar demo after staying up with those guys most of the night because they had crazy amount of women in the room.
Mm.
So it was a big
I
party.
could only imagine.
No, Manowar is hardcore music and metal, and also they definitely had women. So
Yeah.
anyway, the at that point, then I had to make a decision, whether to stay with Manowar or whether to
Mhm.
stay with the Rods, and I made the choice to stay with the Rods.
Yeah, yeah. So I gotta ask Carl, with the Rods and Manowar, completely different bands, both rock and hard and heavy metal, right? But I want to ask you, how is the energy different from both of them, right? Especially playing with both of them. How does it differ?
Well, there's such an intensity in Manowar, such
Mhm,
an intensity,
mhm,
and Eric's vocals are incredible. Ross, great parts. Joey's monster on bass, like so they're all phenomenal, and the music is really intricate and just intense,
mhm,
powerful. With the Rods, we were more like had a punk edge to us. It was like a
mhm,
looser and just really going for it. I always want to say, to me, it was when we start the set, it's like the train leaving the station.
mhm,
It just
mhm.
goes. The train's going down the tracks. It does not stop.
No,
Like a
no.
run, like a truck going down a hill with no brakes. It just
Oh, no
keeps
breaks. Just
going and
just
going.
get.
It's going.
So I mean, so with that being said, how is it as a drummer, right? How are we? Is there like a different technique? Is there something within you that you're like, okay, Man of War, I'm just kind of pounding. Rod's a little bit more intricate. Like how did as a drummer, how do you approach that?
Um, with Manowar, the parts were worked out and they were very, it's a different thing. It was very tight and precise. And with the rods, it's looser. I have a lot of freedom in the rods. With Manowar, I had total freedom, but I was in the context of the song. So I'm working out parts that are as musical as what they were playing. You can hear a lot of my parts on that first album. And that's that was the deal. So Manowar, like more like kind of holding the chariot back because it's so intense. The horses are just pulling to get away and break free. And you're like trying to just keep that power and that energy under control so it doesn't just explode and cause a nuclear reaction.
Exactly. Because you listen to Manowar and it's been close to 30-35 years, maybe even close to 45 years of just keeping that intensity, but I think it's safe to say you were on the ground floor with that, right? You were able to set the stage with that and kind of be part of that legacy.
I'm proud that I was part of the genesis of it, but Ross, Eric, and Joey, they were the ones who really were the architects of it. But I was glad that I was there to kind of add my part.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, going back to the drums, though, and I'm a drummer at heart. I know I'm a bass player, but I'm a drummer at heart.
Well, we're kindred spirits, right?
Exactly. So I want to ask you, influences. I wouldn't be a Beyond the Heavy if I wouldn't be asking, what are some of the influences? What made you gravitate to the drums?
I'd always wanted to play drums. It was never a question in my mind. From the time I was 4.5, I went to a wedding reception with my mother, and I walked in, and there was a red set of drums. It was like an American Legion, and there was a little riser, maybe a foot high, and a little, the wrought iron things, the old ones, and it was break in the middle, and the drums were in the middle. And I think it was a red set, and it just was like the Alleluia singers, and the white light shone down on the drums, and that was it. From that point on, 4.5 on, all I wanted to do was play drums. And
okay.
But we were poor, so I wound up, when I was living in California, they had I wanted to play drums, but all the drum chairs were filled. So I wound up getting a clarinet and started on clarinet.
Okay.
And I didn't get drums until I was 13. And after my poor mother my father had passed away. She had, she was working at the post office. There was no money. But I brought this guy, and I got this Gracie Japanese drum set that was, it was a beginner set to say the least. And the hardware was shitty, and the chrome would peel after a while. But to me, it was, the best thing. I finally had a set of drums, and I got that set of drums, and she had to pay, it was $360. And I have the receipt from that original when I took him.
Way.
My mother was at the post office at the window.
Yeah.
And I brought him and just embarrassed her, so she signed the agreement. $365 to pay $65 a month on this or something.
Yeah.
So I got the drums, and once I got the drums, that was it. I played every day.
Yeah.
I didn't. I was so grateful to get them.
That's amazing. That's a great story. That's amazing. And I love it because we got to, like I said, we got to start somewhere, right? We got to start somewhere. And one thing I want to ask, I mean, what were some of the drummers that influenced your style, right? Where were some of the drummers that you were grooving to back when you were starting?
Hey everybody, jumping in real quick just to let you know about today's sponsor, Metal and Iron. Are you a gym goer? Do you like listening to metal? Do you like lifting heavy? Well, Metal and Iron's got you covered with shirts and designs that are there to let people know that you're about the heavy lifestyle. None of this Gymshark shit, none of this Adidas, Nikes, nah, you're there to lift the heavy shit. So check it out. Use the code BEYONDHEAVY for 15% off and let them know Mayhem sent you.
Probably the first drummer was Hal Blaine. Do you know Hal Blaine?
Hal Blaine, no.
Probably no. Well, Hal Blaine, I think Hal Blaine, and I should say Bobby Graham from England. But Hal Blaine probably holds the record for playing on the most number one during the 60s, number one in 70s, number one records. He was the guy who was playing on all those, all the hits. Like he was on all the hits, and you name it, he was on it. Every song from the Fifth Dimension, like all the hits. Tommy Rowe, like everybody. He was the drummer, and he came up with so many different things. One of them was, and you can hear it in the Association song "Windy." There's a part where it goes bump bump, and there's a double hit there, and he came up with a timbali kit, and instead of having tom toms, he put a timbali in the front and a timbali with legs on the floor tom,
Okay.
and his snare drum and his bass drum, and he played that kit with just the tom with the two timbalis tuned low.
Oh,
But
wow.
they cut through, and that led to single-headed drum set that was all single-headed. And if you listen to Cherokee Nation, I think it's or Paul Revere on the radio is one of them, where he plays the octave set, 8 tom toms. And he came up with that. But Hal Blaine was on so many records, and I listened to all those. I bought all those 45s when I started. I was 13.
Oh, wow.
I bought 45s, and I had a little Singer portable thing. It was like this big and a little, the album was overhang the thing, and I would be playing drums to that. Like, let me listen to that. What's that? What the hell was that? I couldn't begin to hear it right playing drums. But that's how I started to learn, and I learned through Hal Blaine. Now, Hal Blaine played on Sunny, I think, and by Bobby Hebb, and he plays a crush roll, a closed roll, and that was where I first learned to play that. And so, and I learned how to play swing, and I learned. He played on all the grassroots, and most of the people listening to this won't even know these bands, but they were all 60s top bands from the 60s.
They could do their research.
They can do the research.
Exactly.
And
we gotta learn more. That's fine.
but they were, all these songs, and that's where I first learned to play a swing beat. That's where I first learned to play a flam, a crush roll, a buzz roll, close roll. So many things I learned from Hal Blaine, from listening to his records, because I didn't have money for lessons. And then when I did try to take lessons, the guy I took lessons from, he would tell me I sucked. I'm like, I'm a beginner. I'm trying to learn, but he's like, you suck, and he was really bad. It was negative. He was very arrogant, and I think looking back on him, I realized that he was a very mediocre drummer. But he was very negative toward me. And after a while, I'm not the brightest guy, but after a while I said, why am I paying him every week to tell me how much I suck?
Exactly.
It makes no sense. So then I was self-taught, and it was all Hal Blaine. And then Bobby Graham is another session drummer, played on all the Dave Clark 5 hits, and he played on the Kinks, and all these, and all the day and all the night. And what he said his most famous fill was the flap, the flam, right? He goes, that was the fill. Everybody, wow, that was brilliant. He goes, I didn't know how to come in. He goes, I just like, oh, okay, I'll hit the drum and then we'll go. So a happy accident, maybe not. But anyway, I loved his drum sound. Listen to the Dave Clark 5. Which Dave Clark says he played on, but everybody, the Union and Bobby Graham and everybody else in the session say he didn't. But anyway, those were the two drummers I learned from initially because I didn't have lessons. And so then when I was 19, I saw an ad in the paper, and I've been a huge Vanilla Fudge and Young Rascals fan. Dino Denali, those drummers were big for me. Like, oh my God, that's how I want to play drums. And there was an ad in the paper, Musicians Union, for drum lessons with Carmine Appice. And I thought, Carmine Appice was my hero, right?
Oh, man.
Vanilla Fudge. So, and Cactus. I think maybe that was around 70, maybe something. But anyway, I called the number, and I'm like, I'm responding to this ad, for drum lessons from Carmine Appice. He goes, this is Carmine.
Oh,
I was like, I was starstruck, I was fanboy out. But Carmine, and I can never say it enough. I went to Carmine, and there were things I do. I'm going to grab my stick.
Sure. Yeah.
There are things I do with my left hand. Can't really hear, but where I was doing this basically a multi-note with my left hand. And Carmine's like, that's really wrong, but it's great, so keep it.
Oh.
then there were other things I played. And he goes, you can play with less effort by doing it this way. And so he was really kind. He was really supportive. He taught me to read, and he really was very much helpful in like building you up as opposed to tearing you down, which I hadn't gotten prior to that.
Yeah.
But he was just a huge influence before I started studying with him. And then
Mhm.
after that, it was like he was the coolest guy. And yeah, I've
Yeah.
never forgotten that, because I wouldn't have been the drummer I've become without those lessons from Carmine and without
Yeah.
his influence. Because like from upstate New York, there seemed to be, which it doesn't exist anymore. All the drummers, drum brothers and sisters are all cool,
Yeah.
but with each other. But at the time, guys would go see the band, and you'd be playing along, you'd be hacking away, and
Mhm.
guys would be out in the audience like,
Yeah,
you
kinda.
you suck.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what you got. There was and
yeah.
everybody was competitive. We were all trying to find gigs, and but when I met Carmen, I thought, wow, here's a guy who like wants you to get better, wants to give you ideas, shares ideas,
Yeah.
and tells you when you improve, and is totally cool and totally unlike the scene I was growing up in, which was so negative. And
Mhm.
I was like, wow, this guy's an actual rock star.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
he doesn't have the same attitude that these guys who are playing local bands do, like the local clubs. So that was a big eye opener for me, and basically is that you don't have to be an asshole to be a musician.
Of course, yeah, of course. And I
You know,
and it's funny because I met Carmine too, just at NAM, and it was funny because I was wearing a Dio shirt, and he was
mm.
and he's like, hey, I know that I know that guy. And I thought he was talking to me. I'm like, Carmen, I don't know you, brother. But I want to get to know you. But he's like, no, he's like the guy in your shirt, that band. I was like, oh, well, yeah, of course I know you do.
Yeah,
And he was just the sweetest guy. He's like, hey, he's
really
like
cool guy.
real cool guy. He's the sweetest guy. He's like, I like to see the younger generation, wearing the classic stuff, right? And I was like, well, hey, you know we gotta keep it going, man. So that's crazy that Carmine, you sat down with him and you learned from him, man. And he's a beast.
He is. He is. He's a technical guy. He's also a great innovator, a rock. I mean, I can't say enough about him. And aside from the fact that I just loved his performance, which
Yeah,
was important to me because I tried to steal everything I could. But it was also that he was a technician as well.
yeah.
He was educated drummer. So he really can't say enough good about Carmine. But those
Big.
drummers back then, Mitch Mitchell from Hendrix, Ginger Baker, those are all the drummers that really schooled me in terms of what I wanted to be like. Keith Moon, there's so many, even Danny Seraphine from
Yeah.
Chicago. There's so many people.
Buddy
And
Buddy Miles. Buddy Miles with him when
Buddy Miles was great. I listened to
yeah,
Buddy Miles. I didn't
yeah,
love Buddy Miles. He played a different style, very
yeah.
single stroke roll.
Very heavy on the hands. Very heavy on the
Yes,
hands.
and
Very
but
heavy on.
really fast, really
Yeah,
solid.
yeah.
But Buddy was not my go-to guy, although he was
Mm,
great.
yeah,
But
yeah.
and then when I saw Blue Cheer on Dick Clark, I was blown away by that, and I thought,
Oh, that
oh man,
band.
that's what I want to play drums like.
Exactly. You know what's so funny? My dad says Blue Cheer is like the original Grand Funk power trio.
Mm,
Like there's the power
yeah,
trio, you got Blue Cheer, Grand Funk, Rush, just monster players, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
Blue Cheer, that's what's amazing.
And Blue Cheer for me when I got to produce The Beast Is Back, that was a huge honor for me. Paul
Yeah.
Whaley and Dickie Peterson, that was really huge for me.
Yeah.
Great
No, I could.
guys, and
Yeah.
to see the originators, to see these guys helping them with their working on their album, and watching these guys who were, they just did what was organic for them. It was what they felt. It wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm listening to this guy and I'm taking some from this guy and some from that guy. We're talking about originators. Blue Cheer, they weren't taking from anybody. These guys were like, okay, we're gonna just put it out there 100% and we're going to go for it. And it was what
Yeah.
they felt inside. And it wasn't overly technical, but it was great,
Yeah.
so for me.
Yeah. No, yeah. And that's kind of like I was saying about like Grand Funk too. Like they're not technical, but great songs, great players, the arrangements, the love, the passion, everything was there.
Mark Farner's voice was fantastic.
Oh,
Mel Shocker's bass and Don Brewer's drumming. Don
yeah.
Brewer was
Yeah.
Don Brewer was
Monster.
he was a big, like, I remember playing this triplet, da 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 da, and I would practice that for hours, which he
Mhm.
does in his solo what is it, TNUC, just
Oh, yes.
basically Yeah.
yeah, it's one of their first albums, right? One of their first couple
Mhm.
albums. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But man, I'm just, Mel Sharker, of influence on me because you could hear him, right? Thunder,
He had
thunder
a
from the
deep,
bass.
deep bass tone. He worked so well
Yeah,
with Don Brewer.
exactly,
And I
exactly.
love the way he played because it was very heavy, almost had a Motown thing, the way he would do the climbs, bass climbs.
Yeah, kind of like a James Jamerson type of thing,
Hmm.
kind of situation. Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, no, good observation. I didn't even put that together because I always saw them differently. Both phenomenal players, right? Done so much for the music, but now that you kind of put them together, yeah, you're right. A lot of influence from there too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, I gotta ask again with drums too. Equipment. What do we use? I'm a gearhead, so I gotta know.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's take a look.
And he's like, "Oh, let me give you a tour." Wow. Oh, she's nice, man. Look at that.
So this drum set doesn't leave, has never left the house.
Okay. Okay.
It's a
Okay.
Pearl Masters. I actually have
Okay.
another Tom Tom. I don't use it.
Okay.
I may put it back, but
Mm-hmm.
for this new Rods album, I just use the three and the two
Mm,
floor toms.
and the two floor. Okay.
And I have for my pedals, I use these. I use Tama
Mhm.
Speed Cobras, right? Double kick. But for
Okay.
this, these are Demon Drive. So,
Okay. Okay.
and I love these. These are just
Yeah.
for recording. And then I
Yeah.
have an endorsement with Kasha cymbals.
Gosh. Oh, I've never heard of that brand. Interesting.
Hmm.
Interesting. Oh yeah. Wow. Interesting.
And
Okay.
I really love them. And I have many sets of these.
Yeah.
And I switched this ride out for a different uh,
Oh, for a
for
Zildjian.
yeah, for one song. But
Mm.
I always have. They're all cautious. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so that's the kit, and I use Evans. But live, I use Evans G2 coated. Or
Okay.
actually,
Okay.
no UV2s. I'm sorry, and
Is
they're
that thicker?
fantastic.
Is that a thicker?
It's a little thicker. The sound.
Okay.
Everybody who does sound, they love the sound of it. And
Mm-hmm.
then this is. Now I have 20 snare drums. Excuse me, losing my
Wow.
voice today, but I have 20 snare drums.
Oh my
This
goodness.
is this is my newest addition.
Uh,
This is Ludwig Black Beauty, which
okay.
is God. Of all my snare drums, this is my favorite and my signature Carl Canedy 101 drum from
Mm,
Sweden
okay.
is the other drum. That's what I play live. And if you listen to the Rose Hall album,
Hmm.
um, that snare drum is featured on that.
Okay. Because the one that the what did you use on the Vengeance album? What did you use it on
Vengeance
that one?
Vengeance album was a Pearl Masters 8-inch deep.
Gotcha. Because I really like the sound on that one. It's so
Hmm.
crisp. So
I
I
was
like. Yeah.
I was in the music store here, Magden Music,
Mm,
and I was looking around for things, and the rep was in, and he goes, I said, I'm looking for snare drum, but I'm looking for a sound a little different. And he goes, what about this? And he whips out this 8-inch wood maple Pearl Masters. It's a custom drum.
mm,
And like, okay, he gave me an incredible price on it, so I bought it.
mm.
And that drum, I use that drum. Actually, I put a wood metal rim on it, and so it's got a crack. And
Yeah.
I love it. I was thinking
Yeah.
about breaking it out again, but I love my Black Beauty with 2 lugs. It's hand hammered. It's God. And then my 101 drum is so between the 2 drums, I just don't. I love both of these drums so much. I just haven't had any reason to break out any other drums.
Exactly. Exactly. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm kind of the same
exactly
way
right.
with Jackson. I'm like, I can't go to any other company. I like Jackson. I'd rather stay with Jackson.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So no, I hear you. I hear you. And it's funny because I bought the same bass too. I'm like, hey, concert bass. Let me just upgrade to the other one.
Hmm.
So I hear you. Yeah, yeah. But that again, I love that snare on Venge. It's so crisp, so clean. It can
Mm.
the mix is it's perfect.
That was
Man.
mixed by Brian New, who mixed. He worked with he's worked with Queen, The Cure.
Yeah.
Who else? Somebody else, like a lot of famous people, but he
Mhm.
mixed that album. Great
Yeah.
engineer.
He knows what he's doing.
He does.
He knows what he's
Speaking
doing.
If he can make me sound good, then you know he does.
Nah, Carl, you amazing, brother. You know you are, man. This is it comes out in the music, man. You could hear it, in production aside. I mean, there's still the performance of it, right? Where there's you and Vengeance is a great album, right? And again, because what caught me about it was just again drum and bass, right? The
Hmm.
heaviness, the raw, like the good feel at the bottom, right? And that's what you guys got, which kind of led me to wanted to ask, with back to the drums, what bass are we using? What bass drum are we doing on for that one and then for that album?
For that album, I was using my blue Ludwigs that are from. I started buying them when I had that Gracie drum set.
Hmm.
I started buying drums as I could, and I wanted to. Once I saw Blue Cheer, I don't know why, because I think he's playing a single bass set, but I must have bought the album. Anyway, once I saw that, I wanted to buy another bass drum, so
Hmm.
I immediately went out and bought another bass drum used, and I remember they were cheap, but I didn't have any money, so everything was expensive. But I bought another bass drum. I now have on that Ludwig drum kit 3 snare drums.
Mm,
I have 7 mounted tom toms and 2 floor toms. It's
mm.
2 bass drums,
Oh,
but
oh,
that says
wow.
50s, 60s, and 70s Ludwig Blue Sparkle. But that's what I used on the Vengeance album. I also
Mm,
used that on Shmulik Avagal's album, and I'm trying to think what other album. But I use it on even on the Rods. But I use my Fives Chrome for almost all of the Rods album.
okay, okay. So those are heavy hitter. Those are deep. It's got
Hmm.
that nice thud that I like to
Yeah.
call, a nice little thud on it. Yeah, yeah. So, Carl, I want to ask you, with seeing all these generations of players, different generations of music that's come out, right? I want to ask you, how do you feel about what's happening now with music? What's your perception on the new hard rock and heavy metal, and everything? What's your take on it?
I love it. I mean, I love, first of all, I love the fact that each generation has taken it up a step. Like now, you have people like drummers playing and little kids, young kids playing beats that are so fast, and it's just amazing the musicianship. And there's so much available, And now the foot techniques you can learn, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's unreal, unreal.
Yeah.
So I love it, but there's also really great music being made,
Yeah.
and it blows me away. And I love. I know there's like I hear from some people like I like some of even the European, the symphonic thing that's happening.
Okay. Okay.
I actually like that some of that
Okay.
stuff. I
Mhm.
know people diss it as like oh whatever, but it's some of it's really good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we just played a festival at Nickstock Saturday,
Mhm.
and Crash Karma was on right before us. They were direct support,
Mm.
and I don't know. Do you know that band?
No, it doesn't sound
The
familiar to
two,
me.
they're two. It's a guy, a woman, a man,
Mhm.
and he plays a guitar,
Mhm.
but he has another pickup on the low E string that
Mhm.
goes to a bass amp, and it's
Oh,
tuned down an octave. And
interesting.
he'll play. It's interesting. So he can play the chords, the guitar chords, and also out of the bass amp, he's got the low end as well. But he also will play bass lines on
Mhm.
that string, even though he's going up and down the neck because it's one
Yeah.
string.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's really cool. And then he plays the chords, and then he plays the riff. He's
Huh.
unbelievable. And she plays drums, and she's a wicked drummer, great voice. And
Mhm.
their show cracks me up because she has a little box around her drums, bass drum, and she'll stand on it and she'll be playing the snare and the cymbals. He'll come around, be playing guitar, and he'll
Yeah.
be playing the bass drum while she's
Mhm.
playing, and they'll make these accents, and he'll hit the bass drum and she'll hit the cymbals. It's great act to watch. But the bottom line is the music, Crash Karma, is fantastic.
Crash Karma. Okay,
Crash
I'm gonna
Karma
check it out.
with a K, Crash Karma.
Crash Karma. Okay.
Kind of
Okay.
kind of a I mean, I don't want to diss them because I really like them. I've been putting them up on my Facebook page, but
Mm.
Crash Karma is kind of like I don't know about the name, but whatever. And it's
Yeah.
with two
Okay.
Ks. But
Yeah.
they kick ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's two of them. It's like the
Yeah.
heavy metal White Stripes.
It's the heavy metal White Stripes. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I think, looking at what's happening with technology, the production's getting better, right? All these young cats on YouTube and TikTok, all the social media stuff. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of virtuosos out there. that we didn't know about, so it's good to see that what's coming out, right? Let's see what the genre of, even just like I said, hard rock and heavy metal, right? Continuously kind of coming up. But one of the things that I was actually talking about with another buddy of mine is that we're not finding any more of, like, as you said, like the Queens, right? The Metallicas anymore. Why do you think that is? Why do you think, is it because the market is so saturated? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think that what's happened is no record labels per se for heavy
Mm.
music,
Mhm.
right? So there's no machine behind you as a rule. And that doesn't mean some of the bands have it, but the other thing is you have so many genres and subgenres of music. Also, once the record labels imploded, and now, like if you go into McDonald's and you say, well, who's in a band? Like 5 people at the fry are going to go, I have a band. And you say, well, does anybody have music? Or, well, I've got my album. Here's a thumb drive with my album on it.
Yeah.
So it's so commonplace. I think the problem is that there's a lot of great music, but how do you rise above the noise? Like, what is it? Like 1,500 or whatever it is a day, might be way more than that. But for Spotify alone, uploads of new music every day, every
Mm.
single day.
Yeah.
So how do you rise above that, and how do you sustain that? Because there's so much new music coming out, and how do you keep it going? And how do you let people know that you have a new album out? Like, how
Yeah.
do people get that word out? You have to build a fan base, and then you have to. So I think it's really hard. And so for a band to become like a Metallica, that huge fan base that follows them and is dedicated, very difficult to garner that kind of attention.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And also,
it's hard. Yeah.
and also because when we got signed, the record label would handle press, and you had magazines and radio. You didn't really have fanzines per se. Like, there were some little fanzines starting in the early 80s. But at the time we were signed in like 1980, 81, you would just put, like, record company could just, if you can get a song on the radio, great. They would say your name and people listen to it. In the shops, you could put it and there would be a poster, or your album would be featured and there's a cool cover, or they read something in a magazine. Some fan might go buy it. Now, where do you get your information? It's everywhere. There's so much social media.
Yeah.
And social media, like 5 years ago, you could put out a video and it might last a week. Now you put out a video, you might get 2 days if you're lucky,
Yeah.
unless it's
Yeah. That's true.
incredible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different way of getting out the music and getting the word out.
Yeah. I think you said it best, and with you having the experience, the market is too saturated, right, to kind of get out there. But that's not to discourage anybody, right? To discourage, hey, if you want to play
I
music,
don't,
put
and
it out.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, we're still recording. I'm really excited about a new album, and I can't announce the label yet, but we're very excited. We're
Okay.
pretty close to being done.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
and it's really it's great. And we record because we love it. It's not like some people just they're not going to record anymore. The fans don't buy it. It's like, what? As long as you have fans who are interested, and as long as you want to make music, why wouldn't you do it?
Exactly. No, hey, we're still
Yeah.
here. We're still here and kicking. We're still playing music, man. Yeah, that's the beautiful
Right.
thing about it. That's a beautiful thing. But I mentioned
Yeah.
Metallica, and then Ben actually specifically texted me that that there was a relationship between you and those guys, right, with Metallica. I guess I misread the text. I don't remember what he was saying, but there was a relationship with you possibly producing Ride the Lightning or something like that. Did I misunderstood that?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
We did some shows with Metallica. In fact,
Mm.
funny thing is they opened for us. Like, they
Oh,
were
okay.
support to us.
Okay.
And Lars even borrowed my pedals at Lemoore in Brooklyn. But the and they were just great guys, and they
Yeah.
stayed in Cortland, my town, where my friend Victoria had the Rock and Roll Hotel, and the band stayed there for quite a while. But the record company called me when they were going to, I think, Sweden, whoever they produced their album, and they wanted me to go. They wanted to hire me. And I turned it, not to produce the album, to go there kind of as like the record label, oversee it, make sure it was getting done properly, make sure
Okay.
whatever.
Okay.
And And I just said, the guys are going to resent me if I go.
Mm,
They're going to
mm,
resent me. There's nothing I'm going to contribute. They know what they're doing. They
mhm,
got, I knew because Chris Bubach, who produced our first album and longtime family friend, Chris would would call me and tell me what was going on with the first album. And he would say, like, the drum, I go, what about the band? And he didn't like heavy metal. And he's like,
mm,
there's something about this band. He goes, there's definitely something about this band.
mhm,
So
mhm,
obviously he got it right away.
mhm,
And
mhm,
he would tell me about Lars. He goes, Lars comes up with these parts. He can't execute them very well, but he'll play and play and play until he gets them right.
mhm,
But he definitely has a vision. So it was clear that they had a vision. I mean,
mhm.
obviously. And
Yeah,
so I chose not to go because what good would it have done?
yeah, yeah. No,
What's up, everybody? Want to jump in really quick to tell about one of my favorite brands and my brothers over at Heavy Defender Merch. Heavy Defender Merch products are a must-have for any heavy metal fan. Their banners, pins, and apparel is made from high-quality materials that feature bold, eye-catching designs that are truly to capture the essence of the metal lifestyle. The shirts are comfortable and durable as hell, man. The hoodies are perfect for when you're leaving the whiskey and it's fucking 2 o'clock in the morning, it's cold as shit. Heavy Defenders offers a great selection of products for any metalhead looking to represent their passion in freaking style. With unique designs and quality material, hey, check out HDM.
no. But no, no. Last question for you, is when it comes to the music and stuff like that, right? And as we talked about with the generations and stuff, I want to see, how do you feel about what's happening with the scene, right? With actually the hard rock and heavy metal scene, right? How do you feel about what's happening?
Well, in what way? Because
Well,
I see a lot of bands hosting each other. I see a
mhm,
lot of bands supporting each other, especially young bands, which I love
yes,
seeing.
yes,
But of course, it's not just because they're all nice people. It's because it's survival. If you don't
yes,
work together, you die.
yeah, yeah. Well,
So
not only just that, but I was talking about in the context of there's so many subgenres, right? And there's so
mhm.
much, there is some divide, there is some, and I know, as you said, back when you were starting to play, right, there was the negativity, right? There was that, right? But how do you see it today? What's your perception on it today?
Well, I mean, everybody, you're always going to have purists. You're always going
Mm,
to have, oh, I don't, I'm not into that, or I'm into this style. But overall, I think I see bands on the same bill and they're different. In fact, one of the things we played Muscle Rock a few years ago in
mm,
Sweden,
mm.
and we were on the bill and we were headlining, and all the bands were heavy. And then, have you ever heard of the Crazy World of Arthur Brown?
Crazy World of Arthur. No, no, does it?
Okay, so he had a song called Fire in the 60s,
Mm,
like maybe 68, 69, when I was just starting.
okay, okay,
And he had like fire helmet or something, and he had robes. And so, but it was very, he was really way out there.
yeah.
But he was uh, with keyboards. And but look up the song Fire by it's wild, it's heavy for the time.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
anyway, it's he was on before us, and I remember going back. I was backstage and kind of tapping around, and he had this woman who was a dancer, and she had this frilly little thing which would be like wings, and she said, "Can I borrow your drumsticks? A pair of those drumsticks?" And she stuck them in the wings so she could move them, and like this, like fan them out.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm spreading my arms, so she
eh,
could move them out like wings.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so they were very 60s pop, right? And
Mm.
they came on and the crowd loved them, loved them. When
Ah,
they went down a storm. And I think that people are into music, especially in Europe. They're very, if it's
oh,
good, that's all that matters. If it's
yeah,
good, they'll be cool.
yeah. That's the only place that's having festivals now because we don't have festivals anymore in the States, right? We don't have too much now. you know.
No, not very many festivals at all.
No. So, but over in Europe, that's where it's happening. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I think with having that perception of kind of looking at like, there was divide, but now I think it's getting better with social media, right? We're having those aspects of like, hey, look, I could like your page, or I could like your content, or
Oh,
whatever it may be.
absolutely cross
Yeah.
promotion,
Yes.
realizing, and like I said, if you don't work together, you'll die.
Yeah.
You need my social media just as much as I need your social media, and I need to share my audience, and you need to share your audience.
Yeah. I
And
love
that's
that. Yeah, that's great. I think that needs to be on a shirt.
all
We gotta
right.
be, we gotta be together, man. Or maybe that's the next Rod's t-shirt, right? You guys could have it on the
That's it.
back or something. Yeah.
I just wrote the new Rod's, the next album. It's called "You Share Your Audience,"
Yeah,
and then we'll share ours.
yeah. There you go. There you go. Yeah. So, Carl, brother, I'm sorry I have to put a pin on it. I got another appointment at 4:30, brother. But I love talking
No
to you.
problem at
I
all.
really love talking to you, man. This has been such a blessing. My 16-year-old Matt would be jumping for joy right now. Just the opportunity to talk to somebody of your caliber. It's an honor. It's an
Well,
honor,
I
Carl.
appreciate it. Really, seriously, we appreciate all the support, and and plus, we have a new album, and I have my new book. So
Yeah.
please
Oh,
have us back and
absolutely,
help
absolutely. No,
promote.
absolutely. I can't wait to hear it. Whatever. Whenever. When are we looking for the book? When is it coming out? Talk to me.
Probably October.
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Lot
Now I know.
lot of
Now I know. Oh, go ahead.
lot of stories. No, a lot of stories played on and produced over 40 albums, and a lot of different bands and a lot of stories.
To be a fly on the wall, brother.
Mhm.
Now I know. Now I know what to ask my wife for our anniversary gift. Yeah.
I don't know. I'd ask for something good, but you can still get it sometime.
Yeah. No, I know it'll be good. I know it'll be good. Carl, thank you so much, brother. Let me go. Let me.